I'm James Thomas, and welcome to the I Am Him podcast.
Coach, I had a question for you. Was there ever a time you had to mend your relationship with your children?
Yes, every time you break up, you have to mend your relationship. So, which is why I love your story, right? Because there's things you learn on both sides, and so you guys were able to heal, and so you're showing them what it looks like to kind of, go through a problem and go through a solution. Which a lot of times I think, especially growing up, a lot of things are hidden from you as a child, right? And so mommy and daddy be fighting, you don't see them make up, so you actually don't learn how to dynamically communicate with a person to heal, right? And so you going through that actually showed your sons that. So if they ever hit a wall, right, they'll know, okay, well, if dad made it through, I can make it through. So, and going back to your question, because I've been married a few times, and so each time, I've had kids. When you break up, the breakup is one thing, but that's something that I still struggle with today because you broke the home, right? And I put it all here, like I'm supposed to be able to maintain that space. And then when you come from a background where everybody stayed married in the family, whether it's the grandfather, the uncles, I don't know the dynamics of the relationship, but I know they stayed together. That creates a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Because it's like, fuck, I'm the only one who just can't seem to get this right. And so when I can remember different moments where I remember breaking up, and one of the things that I had to remember is let me have this conversation with these young men or this young lady. This is not their fault. Because sometimes when they don't know what's going on and all of a sudden you just split spill, which is how my relationships ended. It wasn't like this dramatic thing. It was just dad is here one day and now he's gone because they don't know what the hell's going on in the relationship. I've had to approach it from not from defending myself, but sharing with them hey, this is not your fault, that this is happening. Because again, me growing up sort of like you guys, dad was sort of in and out doing whatever his thing was. He wasn't present. I had a lot of resentment, bitterness, anger, things like that. And so I was really doing my best not to become my dad, because I had to stay present as well. And so that's really my saving grace. I was able to stay present. But the only thing I really had to do was just have the conversations with them. But I've realized over time, one of the things I did, especially as they've gotten older, I've given them these unfiltered moments. Whereas I sort of removed the titles, right? I'm a human who's 50 years old.
Oh, interesting.
They're human that's 18. Let's talk about what you're really feeling, right? And so when I gave them that space to be really unfiltered and just have a conversation as men, that's when I learned about the anger and they're mad. I mean, the things that they carry. And so going back to what you said, it was very difficult to kind of sit through that because as a dad, I'm like, oh, I'm doing okay, right? Paid a ton of child support, right?
Yeah.
I showed up when I can because, again, when you start to pay these things, you have to now make up your money. And, of course, making up money means you eliminate the time with them. So it was a difficult space. But when I had those conversations with them, that's when I realized, oh, these guys got some anger, right? Towards me for what I did, irregardless of what was happening. And so saving that space for them kind of allowed us to really, really mend the relationship beyond me just saying, hey, son, okay, I'm breaking up and here's why it's not your fault, blah, 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 right? Now it's hey, dad, you should have been here. Here's all the blank spots that have occurred and, where I feel like you messed up or dropped the ball. And they don't want to hear anything about me working. They don't want to hear nothing about no child support. They don't want to hear nothing about why it didn't work out. It's
you weren't there.
You weren't there. Yeah. And so, for me, it's been a continuous healing journey, and so we've gotten to the point where the love and the respect is there, and they sort of, I guess, look at me I don't want to say Superman, but a hero again. And that's kind of the big thing. So when you talked about just the hurt, right? Again, I could relate to that because I'm my daughter, she let me have it. Right, she did not like me for a long time. But I didn't know that. I could sense it. As a dad, you always know. I'm she was kind of frosty.
You got a problem.
And so, but I always I was this is not their responsibility to heal the relationship, but it's mine, right? And so I took my lumps,
In doing those conversations where it's heart to heart, I don't know if you ever realize it's for kids, we'll see our parents we'll idolize, we'll demonize, and then eventually go to humanize. For me, at least with my dad, I never got to really like feel like humanized with him
Yeah.
because he passed away definitely a little too soon.
Yeah.
But having those heart to hearts, do you think your kids have been able to humanize you like more so, like get to know who you are?
Oh, for sure. You know, and I've been way more forward just because I realized, again, we talking about historically how people pass stories down and through storytelling. I was like, these people don't know anything about me, right? And so, you know, even if you're raised, it was like, wait a minute, let me just tell you about me. Like, here's where I work. Here's what I did. You know, here's what I've done. Like, just here's how I've overcome. So to answer the short answer is yes. And I know that because I've just through the years of healing, they come to me with everything. Some of the stuff they bring to me, I don't want to hear, right? Because it's like, okay. But again, because I've created a safe space, they've forgiven me. They love me. I love them. They will tell me things first before they even tell their mom. And keep in mind, the moms are the primary like caregivers because they, you know, again, when you break up, I don't know what it's like in any other culture, but Black cultures, they end up with the mom by default. And so, again, it's never even a question. It's just true. It's never a question, and they just, you know, just, okay, this is, you just sort of accept it as a guy. Although that's one thing I wish I would have done differently, but that's another story. And so just through time, like that's really all it is. It just keeps showing up, just like kind of what Jamal said. You know, and that's the hard part, understanding that if I keep showing up, you know, doing the right thing, they'll eventually come around. Because I think at the heart of it, like with any of us who grew up without a dad, if they would have just showed up and said, hey, you know, I'm sorry, and just kept showing up, eventually we would have forgave them. Because the love is so intense. Like, I was a daddy's boy and he wasn't even around.
Me too, bro.
You know.
Me too. My
You
dad
know.
couldn't do no wrong till I was 16.
And yet he did all the wrong. My dad was
Exactly.
like,
Same
that's-
thing with me.
Yeah. And so, and just learning that lesson from my own experience, I was like, okay, let me make sure I save space for them.
I still protect mama
yeah.
though, but like dad
Yeah, for
was
sure.
like, "Why you talking like I'll bust a nigga up talking about my daddy?" My mama like, "Don't talk about my mama, but you say one thing about my daddy."
Yeah. So I think healing is a continuous thing. Like, you know, because there can be certain triggering points, things like that. Like my daughter, she was in, I don't know, she blamed me for something. She made a decision about something and was like, you know, if you were there, then I wouldn't have made this decision. And I was like, you know, you made that decision, but I'm going to take the brunt of this, right? And so, because, again, one thing is sometimes you just got to listen. You know? And I realized that if I am there, she's probably going to still make the same decision. But in her world, like, and so I try not to kind of fight those. I try not to argue with her, but in my world, I'm like, accountability is a thing, right? And so, but again, you know, I just didn't want the sins of the father to be visited on the kids. And it's like, you got to show them something different.
Yeah.
And so I've sacrificed a lot to make sure that they're well adjusted as best they can, because again, if we all know, like, trauma just sort of follows you until you resolve it. And so I spent a solid 3 years in therapy, you know, 2.5 years actually. Just again, at one point I had 2 therapists, because I was like, let me really resolve me, because I can't show up for them in the way I'm supposed to unless I know who I am, right?
Yeah.
And so, which is why like self-awareness is so important to me. And so I talk a lot about that with like just men, but my sons in general. Like, because I'm like, if you understand who you are, know you, then it becomes easy to be a dad, to be a business person, things like that. But, you know, just the healing, the mending, it's a continuous thing.